Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of The Draw Step. And let me tell you, there are a few things in life that are more annoying when you're playing a game of Commander and your opponents start putting out really nasty creatures or start comboing, things like that. All of the obnoxious stuff you don't want them to do. So, what's the best way to keep them from doing that? Well, don't let them have any cards in their hand. In fact, let's not just not let them have any cards in hand. Let's take all their best stuff and make it our best stuff. And I am going to show you on this video how we're going to do that by using today's commander, Tinybones Bauble Burglar. Now, this card is pretty foul. I wouldn't say it's super toxic, but your friends probably aren't going to enjoy playing against it very much. Here's what he does. He is a legendary creature for 2 mana, a mono black, 1/3. It says whenever an opponent discards a card, exile it. Exile it from their graveyard with a stash counter on it. During your turn, you may play cards you don't own with stash counters on them from exile, and mana of any type can be spent to cast those spells. In addition, you can pay for, tap, each opponent discards a card, activate only as a sorcery. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be with this deck, forcing your opponents to discard their cards. It's going to go into exile. And now you will then be able to play all of their best stuff. Even though you're in mono black, you can still play all their cards because you can pay it with any mana. And then stapled on here is a discard effect. So that is going to be a repeatable way of making sure that we get our opponent's cards into exile so we can do that. Let's get into the rest of the deck. First, starting out, we got a bunch of just swamps, this mono black, so the majority of your land base can be basic lands. I do have a few non-basic lands. I have Fountain Port. This just gives you a lot of flexibility and variety depending on what you need. Then I have Mudflat Village. It taps for colorless, or it can tap for black to cast a creature spell. We have a decent amount of creature spells, so that's fine. And then you can pay 2, sacrifice it, and bring back either a bat, lizard, or rat, or squirrel from your graveyard to your hand. We have a few of those in this deck, so that's nice to have recursion stapled on a land. Speaking of recursion, we have Takenuma Abandoned Mire, one of the stronger mono black lands out there. Taps for black, or it has a channel ability to return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. Opal Palace, this is nice just to put 1/1 counters on creatures. The Dross Pit, it enters tapped, but later in the game, if you need cards, you can sacrifice it and draw a card, which is nice. Myriad Landscape, it enters taps are colorless, but then you can pay 2, sack it, and ramp a little bit with that, which is nice. Demolition Field, sacrifice it to destroy a pesky non-basic land of your opponents. And then drown your temple. You can pay 3 and return it from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So sometimes we're going to have to discard cards. So this would be a card that you could discard, but then still play it later on if you need that land. So that's kind of nice. And our final non-basic land is incredibly strong in this deck, in a mono color deck, really. Tarnation Vista. It enters tapped and you choose a color. Obviously, you're going to choose black. And then you can tap it and add 1 mana of the chosen color, or you can pay 1, tap, and for each color among monocolored permanents you control, add 1 mana of that color. So that is pretty nice right there. Okay, moving on from our lands, we'll go over our ramp really quick. We have just a few. We have Arcane Signet to help get your commander out faster. Wayfarer's Bauble, sacrifice to get a land. Mind Stone taps for a colorless, but then also again later on you can sacrifice it to draw a card. And last but not least, Soul Ring. because I think every deck should have a Soul Ring. Part of why we have so much ramp in this deck is we are trying to speed out our commander as quickly as possible. The commander is strongest really earlier on in the game when opponents have quite a few more cards in hand. Granted, as time goes on, they're going to have fewer cards, but they're also going to probably be more expensive cards or cards they're trying to hold on to use to combo or play later. So there's a little bit of a give and take, but our deck is pretty fast paced. We want it up and running as quickly as possible. So once we get that up and going, we do have a few pieces, just value pieces here. Void Beckoner for 8 mana. You get a giant 8/8 with Death Touch, but you can cycle it for free, so you can discard it and draw a card. Again, we want to do some self-discard as well. So you're getting that ability. Plus, when you cycle it, you can put a Death Touch counter on target creature you control. That's pretty nice value right there. Bitter Ordeal, 3 mana. Search target player's library for a card, remove that card from the game. That player shuffles his or her library. This is pretty nice, again, especially if you know you're playing against an opponent who has like a combo deck or some particularly nasty cards that you want to take care of. Plus, this has Gravestorm. So when you play a spell, copy it for each permanent put into a graveyard this turn. We have quite a few ways where even with like our commander, it says once they discard a card into it goes to their graveyard and then exile it. So that would technically work with this as well too. So making this more and more powerful of a card. Professor's Warning for 1 mana. You can put a 1/1 counter on target creature, or target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So if somebody is trying to deal with your commander really quickly, that's a way of protecting it. Speaking of protection, we also have Fake Your Own Death for 2 mana. It says, until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains when this creature dies. Return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, and you create a treasure token. So that's nice. Again, keeping your commander safe and also getting a little bit of ramp out of it. That's a win-win. Speaking of destruction, we do have a few destruction pieces. We have Withering Torment for 3 mana. Destroy either a creature or an enchantment. That can be nice if an opponent has a pesky enchantment that's either shutting down something you're trying to do or just giving them way too much value. And then Fell for 2 mana. Destroy target creature at sorcery speed. Here are some other value pieces. These all kind of fall into the value category. Black Market Connection for 3 mana, and it has quite a bit of flexibility. It has 3 different options, and at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, you can choose 1 or more. You can either create a treasure token and lose 1 life, or you can draw a card and lose 2 life, or you can create a 3/2 colorless shapeshifter token with changeling and lose 3 life. So depending on what the situation calls for, if you need some blockers, if you need that card draw, whatever you really need, or ramp with the treasure tokens, that can be nice to give you that flexibility. Finally, for our value pieces, we have, and I really do not know how to pronounce this, it is a mouthful, but for 4 mana, we have, read it for yourself, because this is Triskaidekaphobia, something like that. I always like to say I love having alternate win cons in my deck. So with this, it says each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, then each player gains 1 life, or each player with exactly 13 life loses the game, then each player loses 1 life. So you can kind of, at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to choose one. You can manipulate that. So you can take out your opponents if you can get them down to exactly 13 life. Is that going to be easy to do? No, not necessarily, but you do kind of get to manipulate the life either going up or down. All right. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of discarding going on in this stack, and also a lot of really good creatures that if they get taken out, we do want to be able to have the ability to bring back. So we have quite a bit of recursion in this deck. Unseal the Necropolis for 3 mana. Each player mills 3 cards. Then you can return up to 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. That can be nice value too, even just, it's not card draw, but kind of. You're putting 3 cards into your graveyard, and maybe you'll find 2 creatures that you really wanted to get back from doing that. Writ of Return, 5 mana. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And that in and of itself is slightly overpriced. 4 would be a better rate for that effect, but it has Cipher. You can exile the spell encoded on a creature you control, and whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player's controller, may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. So that is now repeated way, it's a repeatable way to bring back one of your best creatures if it ever gets taken out. I love that. Zombify for 4 mana. Like I said, this is probably a better version. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Disentomb, 1 mana. Return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Obviously, the returning it directly to the battlefield is a lot more powerful, but even sending it to your hand is not too bad because you can do it for a cheaper rate. This is an enchantment room. So it does 2. Defiled Crypt. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black horror creature. This ability triggers only once each turn. We have, obviously, as we're going through, quite a bit of manipulation of our graveyard. So getting some extra value out of that is nice, getting that 2/2 creature when we bring something out. And then for 1 mana, when you unlock the store, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So that in and of itself is going to trigger that ability and also get you that 2/2 creature for that turn. Restart Sequence. For 4 mana, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, but if you do damage with your commander, you can pay that for only 2 mana, so that's a seriously good deal right there. Unearth, return target creature card from, or creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is a little selective, but it also has a cycling, which as we went over, cycling can be nice to do that discard and draw. Raise Dead, 1 mana, return any 1 creature from your graveyard to your hand. Very, very nice. All right, so that is it for our card manipulation there. Moving on, we will now get into the discard portion. This is the bulk of what this deck is built around, getting our opponents to discard their cards. So starting out, we have Smallpox for 2 mana. Each player loses 1 life, discards a card, sacrifices a creature, then sacrifices a land. This does hit you as well too, but that is a ton of value and is going to hurt your opponents more than it's going to hurt you. Pilfer for 2 mana. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Duress, very similar. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. So you're getting to select the best stuff from your opponent to send into exile for you then to be able to play later. It's like going shopping, but through your opponent's hands. Binding Negotiation for 2 mana. Target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. If you do, they discard it. Otherwise, you may put a face-up exiled card they own into their graveyard, which is, again, basically the same thing. Next, I have Myojin of Night's Reach. Rather expensive at 8 mana, but it's a 5/2. It enters with a divinity counter on it if you cast it from your hand, and it has indestructible as long as it has a divinity counter on it. But then you can remove that divinity counter, and each opponent discards their hand. So, again, depending on how early in the game you get this down or how stocked up on cards your opponents are, which a lot of Magic players like to have as many cards as possible. So if somebody has a full hand, if your opponents have 3, 4, 5 cards in hand, you remove that divinity counter. Now you're getting all of those cards into exile for you then to play later. Incredible value with that. Liliana of the Veil, a 3 mana planeswalker, starts out with 3 loyalty counter, +1, each player discards a card. So again, this is what I said, like it does affect you as well too, but more importantly, your opponents. -2, target player sacrifices a creature of their choice, not that strong. -6, separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanents in the pile of their choice. So you could do that quite a few different ways as far as like, shoot, you could be really mean, like put all of their lands in one pile and then all of their creatures in another and kind of make them choose which way they're probably going to sacrifice all of their creatures. So it basically turns into a board wipe, or you put some of their lands in. Either way, you're going to greatly set somebody back with that. So that -6 ability, not the strongest, but pretty toxic. Bottomless Pit for 3 mana. It's an enchantment. It says during each player's upkeep, that player discards a card at random. Again, hitting you, but great value in all of your opponent's turns. Seeker's Folly, 3 mana. Target opponent discards 2 cards. Or creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 till end of turn. So it could be like a board wipe on the token player. Tinybones joins up for 1 mana. When Tinybones joins up, enters a battlefield, any number of target players each discard a card. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, any number of target players each mill a card and lose 1 life. So we have some legendary creatures, not a ton, but definitely some. Mainly it's just that 1 mana for the discard and a little bit of extra value over time. Burglar Rat for 2 mana. When it enters, each opponent discards a card. Cracked Skull for 3 mana. When it enters, look at target player's hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. That player discards that card. And when enchanted creatures dealt damage, destroy it. That would be pretty nice to put on like a big spooky creature your opponent has. Shoot, it could be an Eldrazi. You could block it with a 1/1, and now because it Cracked Skull, it dies, plus you got the discard effect. Painful Quandary. This one is wild. It's a 5 mana enchantment. It says whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. So they'll probably choose to discard their cards until they get to a point where they don't have any cards in hand, and then they're pretty much locked out of the game because, well, first of all, they won't have anything to discard, so they're going to be losing health, and they won't have any cards to play. So you're kind of a meanie bobini for playing that one. Collective Brutality, 2 mana, and you can choose 1 or more, but each mode you choose past the first one, you have to discard a card to do. But again, that's fine. We're okay with discarding cards. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an instant or sorcery card from it. That player discards that card. That can be very nice. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, and target opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Really, we mostly just care about the discard effect, but you can do more in a pinch. Pox for 3 mana. Each player loses a third of their life, discards a third of their cards in their hand, then sacrifices a third of the creatures they control, then sacrifices a third of the lands they control. This is a massive setback to everyone. This does affect you as well too, but again, with the way that we are set up, with the way that we're looking at this, it's going to hurt your opponents far more than it's going to hurt you, and it does move the game along. It speeds things up, taking out a bunch of people's health, gets you a little bit closer to a victory there. Go Blank for 3 mana. Target player discards 2 cards and exiles. Arbiter of exiles their graveyard, to be specific. Arbiter of Woe. It's a Woe. It's a 6 mana 5/4 demon, and an additional cost cast this spell. You do have to sacrifice a creature, but when it enters, each opponent discards a card, loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. So that's nice value right there. Vicious Rumors, 1 mana. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. Each opponent discards a card, mills a card, and you gain a life. Nice. Fanatic of the Harrowing, 4 mana for a 2/2. When it enters, each player discards a card. If you discard a card this way, draw a card. So you're getting all of your opponent's cards into your little stash pile, and you get card draw out of it. Ill-Gotten Gains for 4 mana. Exile Ill-Gotten Gains. Each player discards his or her hand, then returns up to 3 cards from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. Obviously, they had to put the exile part in, or you would just keep looping this over and over and over again, which would be just terrible for everyone. But that is nice. With how this is set up, your opponents really aren't going to have many cards in their graveyard because all of them are getting just discarded straight into exile. Well, they'll hit the graveyard and then go straight into exile. So when you play this, you'll get the value of being able to return 3 cards from your graveyard to your hand, but they're just discarding their hand into your stash pile and not getting anything back. So for 4 mana, that is an incredible deal. And last for our discard, we have Oppression for 3 mana. Whenever a player casts a spell, that player discards a card. So again, a lot, and I do mean a lot of discard is going on here. Obviously, it's nice that those are going into your stash pile, so you can play your opponent's best stuff. But that's also kind of leaving you up to the whims of your opponents to have good cards. So it really depends on your opponent's decks, which can be fun. It makes the gameplay here somewhat varied because you never know exactly what you're going to get. But we want to make sure that we're getting plenty of value off of this as well, too, and can kind of control the pace of the game. So here are some additional value pieces we have. First, we have Tinybones Pickpocket. This is very redundant on your commander, but it's nice to have some redundancy. When Tinybones, the Pickpocket, deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. That's nice. Ensnaring Bridge for 3 mana. It's an artifact, and I have seen this completely shut down games because it says creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. So if you have only 1 or 2 cards in hand, then you are greatly limiting the strength of the creatures that can be coming at you. Granted, if somebody's running a token army and has 1,000/1/1s, well, you're still cooked. But somebody who's building up like a dragon deck or a Eldrazi deck or something, massive like that, they can't swing on you until they deal with that artifact or you get more cards in hand. Rankle, Master of Pranks, 4 mana. It's a 3/3 with flying and haste, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, choose 1. Each player discards a card, each player loses 1 life and draws a card, or each player sacrifices a creature. Very nice. Velgavoth, Terror Eater. This is similar to our commander, except when the cards go to exile, you can pay them with life instead of mana, and it's a giant 9/9 flying lifelinky boy, so that can be a game ender right there. Cryptcaller Chariot for 4 mana. It's a 5/5 with Menace Vehicle with Crew 2, and whenever you discard 1 or more cards, create that many tapped 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. So like I said, even though we will be discarding quite a few cards, we'll be getting value from discarding cards, and when your opponents discard cards, you get value from those as well, too, so it's a win-win. Speaking of value, for discarding Currency Converter for 1 mana, when you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard, and then you can pay 2, draw a card, and then discard a card. Otherwise, tap, put a card exile with Currency Converter into your graveyard. If it's a land, create a treasure token. If it's a non-land card, create a 2/2 black rogue creature token. So every time you discard, it goes into exile, and then you can move it into your graveyard to be able to bring back later, what have you, but you're getting something out of it as opposed to it just going to your graveyard and getting nothing. That's very nice. Asylum Visitor, 2 mana for a 3/1, and it has Madness too, so you can, discard it and still cast it for the same cost. But at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and lose 1 life. So that's very nice value off of penalizing your opponents. Speaking of penalizing your opponents for having no cards, for 3 mana, we have this Planeswalker, Davril Rogue Shadow Mage. Beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 1 or fewer cards in hand, it deals 2 damage to them, so pinging them. As time goes on, they have fewer cards in hand, and it has no plus ability, but does have -1, target player discards a card. So you probably won't use that very much because you want to keep him alive. It's just nice for that damaging effect. Aklazot's Deepest Betrayal, 5 mana for a 4/4 flying lifelink. When it attacks, each opponent discards a card. For each opponent who can't, you draw a card. That's nice. And whenever an opponent discards a land card, create a 1/1 black creature token with flying. So depending on what your opponents are discarding, you're getting even more additional value on top of being able to play their cards later. Haunted Dead, 4 mana. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So you're basically getting 2 bodies for the price of 1. And you can pay 2, discard 2 cards, and return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this is a great repeatable way to bring it back over and over again, continuing to get value. And yes, you are discarding cards, but as we've been over, that's not the end of the world for us. Raven of the Fell Omens, or of Fell Omens. It's a 1/2 flyer. Whenever you commit a crime, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Unfortunately, this ability only triggers once each turn, but trust me, we're committing a lot of crimes with this deck. The Raven Man for 2 mana. It is a 2/1, and it says at the beginning of each end step, if a player discarded a card this turn, each create a 1/1 black creature token with flying, and this creature can't block. So you obviously won't be able to block with it, but you can attack with it. So that is nice to build up an army. From there, we have Waste Not for 2 mana, an enchantment that says whenever an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And whenever an opponent discards a land card, add 2 black mana. Whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. So again, with all of the discarding effects that we have, our opponents are going to be getting rid of quite a few cards, and now you are getting exceptional value out of it. You're getting creatures, you're getting mana, you're getting card draw off it. You get quite a bit to work with just by forcing your opponents to have no cards. So they are going to despise that. The final piece of this deck is replenishing your opponents, which might not make sense, but with all of the discarding that we're forcing your opponents to do, as soon as they run out of cards, yes, we have some of the ping effects like that Planeswalker, but then we won't be able to get any more cards to work with. So we want to actually give our opponents cards. The first one we have is Baleful Mastery. Normally it costs 4 mana, but what we're going to focus on is if you can pay 2 mana instead, and if that cost was paid, an opponent draws a card. So refill an opponent's hand, and then you get exile target creature or planeswalker. So this gives you some removal. It gives you that card draw that we're looking for. Very nice. Pact of the Serpent, 3 mana. Choose a creature type. Target player draws X cards and loses X life or X the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. If you have an opponent playing like an angel deck or some sort of deck where it's very one particular creature themed, you can play this. It will draw them cards, which you will then be able to force them to discard and just pilfer away from them anyway, but then also drain them for quite a bit of life, again, depending on how many of that certain creature type they have. So that's a win-win right there. Speaking of draining them with card draw, we have Scrawling Crawler, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card, and whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. So in combo with like the Pact of the Serpent, that's going to be doing double damage, but just every turn, opponents are getting pinged for cards. If they try to keep up, if they try to draw cards to stay away from you discarding everything out of their hand, then they're getting penalized even more. Village Rites, 1 mana is an additional cost. Cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, draw 2 cards. Damnable Pact, pay 2 and then X. Target player draws X cards and loses X life. So this is a far better version of Pact of the Serpent. Later on in the game, if you have a ton of mana built up, then you can put it into there and possibly even just kill an opponent with card draw. Sign in Blood, 2 mana. Target opponent draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Coveted Jewel, this is a great one. 6 mana. When it enters a battlefield, you draw 3 cards. Tap, add 3 mana of any one color. So that in and of itself, the 6 mana, it's pretty high for a mana rock, but since we're in mono black, 3 of 1 color is a good deal for us. You get that 3 card draw, and whenever 1 or more creatures an opponent controls attacks you and aren't blocked, that player draws 3 cards and gains control of Coveted Jewel. So that's, again, another way of forcing your opponents to draw cards. If they try swinging on you, they'll now have more cards stocked up in your hand, or in their hand, just for you to be able to steal and use against them. Master of the Feast, 3 mana for a 5/5 flying boy, and at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent draws a card. So normally that's a terrible card. You wouldn't really want to play that, but again, in a case like this, we want our opponents to have those cards, especially cards in hand at the start of your turn, because we have more sorcery speed options of forcing our opponents to discard. Blood Pact, 3 mana. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. Temple Bell, 3 mana. Tap it, and each player draws a card. Again, most of these normally you would not want to be playing, but in a case like this, great value for you. The final card of the deck we have is Staff of Eden, Vault Key from the Assassin's Creed set, 6 mana. And it says, when Staff of Eden Vault's Key enters the battlefield, put target legendary permanent card not named Staff of Eden from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you can grab something back from your library or your graveyard technically, but more importantly, you'd probably be trying to get something from an opponent's. And this has tap, draw a card for each permanent you control but don't own. So as the game goes on, this is going to be absurd value because you're going to be playing so many of your opponent's cards. You're going to be able to tap this. You're going to be drawing 5, 6, 7, 8 cards off of that. So you will be always stocked up on cards. You'll have plenty of options to choose from. Your opponents will have absolutely nothing to work with, and they are going to get sick of it quickly. So this is definitely a kind of a toxic deck, kind of a frustrating deck to play against. It's not super aggro. It doesn't have a lot of win cons cooked into it itself, so it does kind of rely on what your opponents are doing, but your opponents are just going to get frustrated that they're not able to do anything at all because all of their cards are gone. That being said, let me know in the comments below, are there any tweaks that you would make? Have you ever made a Tinybones deck? What would you do differently? I'd love to hear it. We are posting new videos every Friday, deck builds, tutorials, different things like that. So make sure you subscribe, ring the bell notifications. You'll see every time we drop a new video. Like this video, and I'll see y'all next time.